Okay, hello everyone. This is Asia. So I'm one of the speakers for this session. So let me start the presentation. Just a minute.
Yeah.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes, I can now.
Okay, great. So welcome all to the session. This is the second session in the series where we have where we have been covering the agentic automation blueprint from strategy to scale. So in the first session, we have already covered certain topics. So we'll also recap through those topics before I get into the second session. And here today I have my colleague as well. Just a minute. My controls are not okay. Yeah. So this is our second session topic, the governance and deployment, and of course methodologies for agentic automation. So in the initial session, we have already covered building a value-driven agentic pipeline. So our colleagues Ram and Ankit had already explained these topics, how agentic automation works, how to build and manage the agentic pipeline, and how you design and make it future-proof. And of course, on the value realization front as well, they have covered certain aspects, like how you can realize the value from agents and through the entire end-to-end agentic automation, be it through agentic builder or through autopilot or through Maestro, any of the UiPath products. Then we also talked on the human-centric design and adoption. So now today's topic, as I mentioned, is on the governance. So I have my colleague Shreya, who will be the co-speaker for this discussion. And myself, I'm Yuvateja ER. I'm working as a technical account manager in UiPath. I have close to 9 years of experience in UiPath technologies. And, I think we can get started. So here is the agenda for this session. So we'll be first covering on the UiPath governance framework, how the governance work in terms of different platform tools that we have within UiPath platform. And also we'll be discussing on the deployment methodologies and how you deploy your agents together with other LLMs or other third-party agents, and how you employ an end-to-end automation using our Maestro platform. And so with that, we'll get into the session. So before we get started with the session, I request you to all open this slido.com and hit this code. So you'll be able to see a page where you can drop your questions and you will get the answers from our moderator team. Okay, so while you are in the discussion, you can keep on putting your questions there. So coming to the UiPath framework, so we have the agentic governance, which will be the first thing in the framework, and you have certain backbones or foundations, which is your IT governance and infrastructure governance. So when I talk on agentic governance, first you need to understand how plain vanilla RPA works, right? So with your RPA, we used to have governance or controls around it as well. So wherein we talk on the data, how it's being used, where it's stored at rest, how it's being used during transit, what types of protocols we are using, and what are all the systems that it can interact with, and is there any limitations to the in terms of access in terms of role-based control, So all of these aspects we already have covered during our RPA journey, right? I think each one of you might have already dealt with this in some time or other in your RPA journey. Now, talking about agentic governance. So what's the need for agentic governance? So as you know, let's say if you take a simple example where a kid is playing. So when you as a parent are monitoring him, so you would keep watching him and you would know what actions he is trying to do, and you would control it. Let's say if he is doing something overwhelming, or if he is doing something extraordinary, uh, you would control him, right? So you don't want to you don't want him to get injured. So in such situations, what you do, you have your place of controls where you act accordingly and you instruct him to do only certain things. The same way we have already governed RPA using our governance controls primarily on the infra and IT level. But on the agentic front, it's like your kid is now playing with a mobile phone wherein he has all the internet. Like he can open any of the apps, he can open YouTube, or he can start playing games in Play Store, whatever he can have access to, he can open it. But how do you restrict it? You would put certain stringent regulations around. So where these things you regulate through the mobile itself, right? You cannot tell him not to go to this website or not to open YouTube. Instead, you regulate that using this device itself, wherein you put certain age restrictions, where only certain content can be consumed by people of certain ages, which means your child can only see certain videos in YouTube. Similarly, you put your password or fingerprint so that you won't be able to download the apps and all. So all of this governance you're giving because he's having access to the internet. That's where agentic comes into picture, which means it's just a example I'm trying to relate. So agentic means you have intelligence, you have agents, and the agent gets the intelligence from internet, I mean through network. It can be of different channels, but let's say if it's unregulated, if it has unregulated access, right, it would put your data to jeopardy. So how, that's where the agentic governance comes into play. Now, apart from infra and IT governance, when I say infrastructure governance, you have certain controls to tell where the data should reside and what kind of encryption techniques you need to use, how the data is at rest, how the data is in transit. So these things you would cover in the infra level, right? On the IT front, you would control based on the access and based on the role. So what types of role is required for this particular agent, how the access can be controlled. So these things would play in the IT level. But on the agentic front, you need an extra layer of protection. So it will give the agent more governance and more control, wherein it doesn't bypass the channels that we have, and doesn't have unrestricted access to the outside data, or expose the current data to outside network. So all of this should be protected. So it's like a globe protecting the whole ecosystem. And how to do it is through set of platform measures that I will cover in the next slides. So primarily, so that's what agentic governance is all about. You're trying to control the agent through a governance framework. Just a minute. Okay. So are you able to follow me till here? Now, this is what I have been talking about. So you have three levels of granularity here. So on the governance. So as we talked about the data residency or data usage in the infra level, and then the data governance, access control, audit and logs, identity, all of this in the IT governance. And now in the agentic governance, we talk on the agency guardrails. How do you put a guardrail around your agent? How do you ensure that it doesn't act out of scope, like out of your control? So you should set certain policies on the agentic level. So wherein you create a certain policy for the agent and you tell the agent to work based on this policy. When it acts based on the policy, it won't go beyond what it is set to do. So for that, right, we have certain guardrails. I'll explain it. So as I mentioned earlier, for agentic, primarily you require a extra layer, right? Wherein you have the proper governance around it, including your IT and infra. You also have another layer, which is your AI trust layer in this case. So for all your agentic and AI related data governance, your access control, everything will play its part through AI trust layer. So how AI trust layer works is through this architecture. If you see on one side, you have all the set of UiPath products and services. You have autopilot, communication mining, process mining, all these products. And you have a trust layer, which acts as a, actually it stitches all the different platforms together. Be it your LLM model, be it your agent, be it a different system, which is external to us, be it any other services that can interact with our UiPath platform. So how these interactions happen is through HTTPS, APIs and web requests, and there is TLS 1.2 plus great security all around. So all the communication happen with this TLS protocol. Now in the AI trust layer, you primarily have these components wherein you have the LLM gateway, you have API capabilities in it, and of course you have some part of governance as well. So I'll tell more on the governance in the next slide. And in the architecture, it's primarily we talk on the different aspects that we have in AI trust layer. So as you can see, you have a LLM proxy, so which controls your actions to the outside world. So before your data gets passed to the external network, it gets scrutiny through a certain level of protocols within our network, within our trust layer. And you have other UiPath platform services as well, which interacts with the trust layer. And as I mentioned, you can bring your own models, be it Azure OpenAI or Google Vertex or any type of models or third-party LLMs. And now all of this together will interact with our platform using the AI trust layer. So AI trust layer acts as a guardrail. It ensures whatever the data is being passed inside or getting outside is properly scrutinized. And you have the proper audit trials wherein you can track who did what and what is the agent's action, what it performed, what is the outcome of it. All of this can be tracked. Okay, I'll go to the next slide where I talk about automation ops, because so earlier when we talked about a trust layer, as I mentioned, it's a trust layer which is actually acting as a boundary. So before it passes the data to outside world or consumes the data, right? But in automation ops, you control all the operations, wherein the agent policies or the governance around the agent can be controlled through this interface. So automation ops is more of like a complement to the AI trust layer. So AI trust layer is already there, which has certain set of governance protocols around, but automation ops will complement it. How it does it is, here you have your method, like you have a way to control your policies, wherein you set a separate policy based on your agent. Like for autopilot, you can set certain level of policies, wherein I can say I can access only Google, or I can only access Bing.com. So you can set granular level controls. And then, as I mentioned, we have policy deployment flexibility per tenant, per group, and per user basis. And then you have the agentic security and compliance on the other hand, where you control the data encryption at rest and transit, and you also control the identity access, like what are all the users who have access to what, and their respective credentials and all those things. And then you can even control the role-based access, wherein let's say a particular user requires access to only a particular set of systems or data. So that access you can provide it. It's just like your kid is playing with the mobile, the scenario that I took, right? In the same scenario, let's say you have two kids and they are of different ages. Now you can put a restriction on their age, right? Wherein for this particular age bracket, only this set of content is visible. And for the one with the higher age, he can consume a little more extra. So it's the same way you can control the roles. So if it's a citizen developer, he have access to certain things, and if it's a developer, he can have access to certain things. And this role-based access to the agents are also is controllable through automation ops. And of course, AI trust layer policies can be controlled, and all automation ops already have its certain integrated controls like studio and assistant governance, source control pipelines, and version controlling mechanisms. So all of this plus the governance that you can put with agents also. So you are getting all of them together in a one bundle, which is through your automation ops. So here, let's say you have multiple tenants, right? You can control the environments in such a way that only certain environment can access certain agents and certain systems. So you have multi-tenant controls as well. You have granular level protection on the folders as well. Like let's say if you categorize the folders, and each of the folders can have access to certain agents only or certain systems only. So all of this can be controlled together, right? So automation ops is like a overlay for your entire architecture. So it gives you access to the audit trails and everything, whatever is being passed into automation trust layer. So it's your central control, I will say. Till here, do you have any questions? So if so, you can put it in the Slido. Yeah. Now, you people might have certain questions, or these are certain generic questions that the people might get when we talk about agentic governance. So how do you stop a autonomous agent from triggering actions that we never approve? So when you talk about such actions where you don't have control to, so people will be afraid to consume it. So they are not ready to accept these agents. So you should have certain controls around it. How do you control it? Using our control agency. So one thing is, after you have performed your action through your agent, so it gets reviewed by a manual, like a human reviewer as well. So that gives an extra layer of support, which means every action that the agent is performing can also be controlled at the end. After the outcome is there, so we can still understand what is this outcome and can it be passed to the outside world. So that action can be taken by a human reviewer. So similarly, so if there are any certain sensitive decisions that is critical, when you are approving your invoices, and there are certain scenarios where you might require human intervention. So although there are certain rules and thresholds that you have put to the agent, which makes it to auto approve it, but still it requires little more control, in the sense review. Once it's done its job, it's better to review it using a human reviewer, and that is what we call as control agency, and that can be accomplished through our governance framework. And also we have certain rules and regulations that certain best practices that you can follow when you're a developer, so that your agents doesn't bypass the safety regulations. And that is the third question we have here. And similarly, we have how do you ensure that the agents are tested, scored, and safe before they go live? So this is one of the questions what the developers might get. So once they have once they are ready with their agent, how do they ensure that they can properly test it and ensure that it is safe and compliant? So for that, you have this control agency again. So you have the governance framework. So using that, you can understand what type of actions the agent is performing by going to the audit trials. So you can understand what is the outcome of this activity and whether it's safe. So all of these things, again, you have with our governance framework. And we have, how do you prove to legal that every agent follow the rules? So in certain cases, you have to prove to your audit team that the agents are performing compliantly. So how do you ensure that? For that, you have the audit trails. So you can show them, so our data is with us, secure, be it trust or be it a transit. We have the TLS 1.2 plus great security, enterprise level security. We have ISO 27001 certification standard, and you have AES 256-bit encryption for your data at rest. So you can tell all of this and make them understand that it is compliant. So there are a couple more questions. One is on the audit trail, which we have already covered, and then we have one where we talk on the PII masking. So what is PII masking is? So now let's say you accidentally send some data where you involve certain customer related information, and now this information is not supposed to be sent to the agent or outside network. Now, how do you ensure that it's governed? So we have a PII masking capability within our AI trust layer, wherein your personal identification information will be masked by some some random words or phrases or examples. So instead, let's say if you're accidentally pausing anything, right? So these things will be masked before the agent even consumes it. So the AI trust layer acts as a boundary before the agent even consumes it. So we control the data and then we send it in a proper form, which is having no sensitive data information leaks. And then how do you ensure the right model is selected, used in the right region and governed? So in certain cases, you might also think on the region where my data is located, or how is it governed, and according to the regional policies, is it compliant? So for all of this, right, we have the trust layer. So your data, be it a trust or a transit, secured, and your data is not directly consumed. So your data is being filtered before it's consumed by the agent. So we have these capabilities that I've talked about. So all of this will come to play when you talk about agentic governance, and that's how the AI trust layer and automation ops work in complement to each other to get it done. So we have certain governance promises as well, which means we are telling the customers that let's say how can we be sure our data is not being used to train models? This is one of the questions for all the builders outside. So which means when you consume their LLMs, whether they are using our data for their LLM training purpose. That's one of the questions most of the people might get when they are using agents. So our promise is like UiPath doesn't use your customer data to train AI models. So you also have an option to opt out from AI training and support, right? And what about the third-party AI vendors? Are they holding on to our data? So this is one more question. So wherein the third-party AI vendors, let's say within UiPath ecosystem, you are utilizing OpenAI, and you might be thinking whether OpenAI has access to my data. No, we don't retain any data, and we do not share the data to the agents directly without masking the things. Will using AI still allow us to meet our data sovereignty needs? So it's again on the data security. So we have the controls in place so that your data is stored and processed in a regulated manner. So we have LLM configuration, wherein even if you bring your own LLM and if whatever be the LLM, what type of LLM you are using, but we still have the protocol around it using our AI trust layer, and we govern the data at rest and at transit, and we still have it secure. What prevents AI from accidentally pulling data from the wrong system? So when AI accidentally pulls the data from wrong system, the first thing is, with the best practice that we have followed, we should have avoided the agent to give access to the system at first place. But let's say we did give access to the system. Now, how do you ensure that it's not pulling the data out of the wrong system? So we have a granular level of control. So as I mentioned earlier, we have role-based access control where you can set the roles to it, and you have data-based access controls. You can tell what type of data can only be accessed by the agent, and what systems can only be approached by the agent. So you can govern it using the folder level control or tenant level, or in the agent itself by putting a policy for the agent and enabling it through automation ops. So this is again with PII and PHI data, personal health information and personal identity information data. Will my AI models will be able to see such sensitive data? So as I mentioned, we mask the data before it's being passed to the agent. Be it like let's say if we are consuming it or if we are sending it outside, it's already masked, and that we do it using the AI trust layer. And as I mentioned, so your workflows retain 100% accuracy, but your data is again filtered and covered. So we have certain scenarios where our governance framework and of course our AI trust layer was able to eradicate certain actions, and these are the examples. So when a rogue agent loops out of control, the AI agent misinterprets its prompt, and like let's say whatever the prompt the user had given had accidentally triggered it to do some unintended actions. So how it can be controlled is through the constraints and pre-approved guardrails. So as I mentioned, when we put these guardrails through our governance framework, right? So in certain cases, you might think the confidence of the agent might also drops a bit, because so after you have given the prompt, right? So the prompt will make the agent to do an action, but before the action is being performed, we are governing it in such a way that we are understanding what action it's performing, and if it's doing an action which is not intended, we will cut it, and we will stop it. So that's how we stop it from doing certain actions. Okay, so how we do it is we reduce the confidence level, so that the confidence score, so you would get a manual intervention there. So it would put you a task in the action center, or it would let you know through certain notifications, so that you would understand. So this action is not supposed to happen. And a conversational agent goes out of bounds or out of context. So this is where an agent is responds with unsafe and harmful content that bypasses the context and system prompts. So we have jailbreak protection for it. So the policy constrains the prompt execution, and we have a jailbreak detection. So let's say if the agent is trying to jailbreak and respond out of its context. So like whatever the user might have asked, but let's say if it's out of context and if the agent is trying to respond to it, we'll break it and we'll ensure that it's policy constrained. So as per the policies and guardrails we have set up for the agent, so it will be obstructed and it won't be able to pass through. So we have the jailbreak protection there. So let's say if an employee includes sensitive data in a prompt, what to do then? So as I mentioned, the employee had accidentally copied and pasted the sensitive data information as a prompt to the agent. So our AI trust layer will mask the data before it's passed to the agent. So which means your, be it your contact details or emails or any information related to the customer or your personal information, it won't be tracked, it won't be given, or it won't be residing in our data. In our data fabric or any other storage places also. It's like we filter the data and then we use it. So it's being filtered and then being sent to the agent as well. And over-privileged agent misuses unauthorized access. So let's say as I mentioned, there are certain best practices you need to follow when you're building the agent. Now, let's say you haven't controlled the access to the agent to certain systems, or you have given a higher level of control than is needed for that particular agent. Now, how do you ensure that it's not going out of bounds? So for that, right, you have human in loop intervention. So all the Gen AI outputs require explicit review and approval. So as I mentioned, so the outcome of this agent will be reviewed by a human before the actual action is taken on the system level. So let's say even if you have given a higher level of control to the system, you can still control it and govern it so that it won't explicitly do its actions on the system itself. So instead, it's being bypassed. Instead, it's being controlled by the user, wherein the user will get a notification or a task in the action center, so that he could understand what is the agent trying to perform and whether this action is objectionable or can it pass through, right? And of course, you have audit trails also, which will be acting as your tracking mechanism. So you would understand what is being passed, what is being generated from the agent, all of this. Cost overruns from misconfigured agent. So in this case, a faulty loop causes an agent to call LLM thousands of times. Now that is one of the cases where our governance framework had controlled it. So what had happened is now because of a faulty loop, because the developer hasn't maintained proper standards while he's designing the flow, so the loop is calling the agent multiple times, which means every agent call will cost you some agent units. So what happens is, so when your consumption of agent units gets higher, you are actually incurring a cost, right? So which means when you are making thousands of LLM calls, you are consuming a lot of agent units, which you are not supposed to. So how do you mitigate it? So you have usage monitoring and controls in place. So there are admin dashboards which would detect such anomalies. So when such things are happening, like let's say one agent is doing multiple calls all in a row, repeated in a repeated fashion n number of times. So we would consider such scenarios as anomaly, and then we would see if it's really needed, or is it something which is not properly controlled. So we have certain kill switches in place to ensure that the model the agent will stop its execution there and then itself, and it won't run anymore. And also you can put certain caps to prevent the agent to use more and more LLM calls. So there is one more case where the policy drift had caused a risky agent behavior. So in this case, what happened is, so normally when agents scale, right now, let's say when you are doing your continuous improvement and development, and you keep your features, like you keep on adding some features to the agent, or you build a new set of scenarios or new set of things that your agent want to handle. Now in such cases, right, you might accidentally haven't set the right policy for the agent, so you might have to review the policy again. But let's say if you haven't reviewed the policy again, and if there is a policy drift, and it would have caused certain exposure of your sensitive data to the outside world, or there might be some other scenario where the data might have passed through. So how to avoid it? So we have our project guardian, which acts actually as your guardian of the data and of your agent. So we continuously monitor your agent behavior and ensure that it's covered in the policy. So let's say if there is a drift in the policy and if the output is not expected, we also consider that as an anomaly, and it would trigger a governance alert. So it would, get your review, like get the manual intervention. So wherein the user has to review the policy again. So ensure your data is not being passed to the external environment due to the changes in policy, right? So also you have NL policy designer. This is more of like if you are aware about semantic search, wherein use NLP in the sense your natural language prompts to search through your policies and through automation ops. We have semantic search, and similarly we have NL policy designer, using which you can write your policy in your simple prompting itself. So the platform owner, he can use natural language to write the prompt and create a policy, and that policy is then can be set in a organizational level or even in a granular fashion based on the environment or tenant. So that can be done using NLP policy designer. And these are all the different set of tools and safety mechanisms and guardrails we have currently in our uh, governance framework that would ensure your data is controlled, your agent is regulated and controlled. So with that, I have covered the part on the governance front. If you have any questions, you can drop out in the Slido. I'll pass on the baton to the my co-speaker. She will discuss more on deployment front, deployment methodologies. Over to you, Shreya.
Thank you, Yuva. Hi, everybody. So, since Yuva has covered most of the part on governance, I will be covering how you could use that governance while you're deploying your agents or an agent workflow within the UiPath platform. So first, I would like to just give you a brief overview on the agentic orchestration. So as you can see on the slide, what UiPath does is that it enables end-to-end process orchestration, which brings together your AI agents, your automations, and as well people in the form of human in the loop activities in a very unified flow. So as you can see in the slide, the top three, you would find the key actors of agentic orchestration. Number one, which is the AI agents, where you could either use UiPath AI agents or the third-party AI agents, coded agents, or vertical agents, any sort of agents of your liking. The next is automations, which again consists of your RPA workflows, your API events, and other workflows where it is just purely rule-based and as an automation. And the last, we have people, which is I could refer to people as via the assistant or such human in the loop actions like action centers or apps, things like that. Now, all of these, when they come together, they orchestrate a full process lifecycle, which is essentially powered by Maestro. So Maestro is our product for agentic orchestration. And through Maestro, you will be able to first model and implement your agent, where you could build BPMN-based tools by using those certain notations and constructs with advanced logic in Studio Web. And once you have modeled and implemented your agents, you can then manage these instances in real time with analytics, retry, go-tos, as well as migration controls. And finally, you would also be able to continuously monitor and optimize your agents by analyzing the workflows, having human in the loop performances to just monitor it continuously and also optimize your agentic flows as and when it is required. And now at the bottom of the slide, you will also see that we can integrate across various systems via integration service connectors or also by bringing in your other agents and APIs such as SAP or Workday or Salesforce and many more. It is not a product agnostic, so you could bring in any sort of systems or third-party agent workflows that you require. So now this is how we bring together AI, automation, as well as people into just one enterprise grade orchestration layer, which is flexible, intelligent, and also very easy to scale. Next slide, please. So how would you deploy your agents? Previous slide, please. Yuva, could you go to the previous slide? Yeah. So how do you deploy your agents to begin with? So before you even move into agentic orchestration, we first need to build and deploy our agents. Now, and also while we are doing this, we need to make sure that we are defining our guardrails as well as it is being enforced into each of the agents that we are building. So when we are building an agent, one of the top three important factors would be that they are outcome driven. You also get a guided experience when you're building your agents, as well as once you've built your agents, there are enterprise grade guardrails around your agents so you can govern them end to end. So now when we're building outcome driven agents, this is when you build your agents, we have certain features with it like context grounding, where you can bring other agents, where you can also include your attended or unattended execution, as well as bring in multi-agent workflows. So for example, if you have an agent and you obviously need to give your agent certain context based on what your requirement is and what you're trying to achieve with that agent. So you know for sure that once you have given that context and it has been grounded properly into your agent, the agent will only take in data from that particular input you have given as the context. So it will not be hallucinating from um, other sources which you haven't given. So it will only be touching on what you have given as the context, which will ensure that it is giving you the right information. And second, when you have a guided build experience, what anybody can do is they can create um, faster and powerful agents which will not take too much time to build, especially because it is a low code environment where you can build your agents, as well as you have prompt auto tuning, auto healing features, where in case you're giving something that is not the right input or you're configured something in not the right manner, the platform will automatically give you certain suggestions saying, hey, you can do this and you can make XYZ changes to make your agents better as well as faster and more optimized too. Once you've built your agents, now you can also give in those guardrails you require to ensure that your agents are secured and governed the as per your requirements and also following the organization's guidelines. So you could bring your own LLMs. It doesn't matter which tool you want to use. As I said before, that the platform is vendor and LLM agnostic as well. So you can bring in any third-party tools and LLMs that you require to really just bring in your entire workflow together. And while doing this, you will also be um, getting a full audit log and governance. There will be trails as to for each and every activity that has been performed within your agents. So you will be having the visibility end to end as to how your agent is performing, not just from a performance perspective, but also from a governance and a security perspective. Next slide, please. Now, UiPath Maestro. What UiPath Maestro does is an agentic orchestration. If I can put it in a nutshell, it does agentic orchestration. So now, when you've built your agents, you have XYZ agents. You have maybe a singular agent or maybe multiple agents. We bring all of these agents as well as your RPA automations, along with if you have any human in the loop aspects within your flow, we bring all of this and orchestrate it into one workflow in Maestro. So as you can see on this slide, you can adopt agents effortlessly with control, where you could easily model, you can orchestrate as well as optimize agentic processes where it involves agents, robots, and people. So if you can see in this small animation in the slide, there is an invoice processing workflow and agentic orchestration, where it combines all three. You've got your RPA automations, you've also got agents in the middle, as well as human in the loop interactions to ensure that all of your end-to-end process goes through a proper flow. And you could also scale these complex and intelligent processes because organizations will manage and scale their processes end to end more effectively, and therefore it will automatically lead to better outcomes and also higher ROI from your automation initiatives. And lastly, you could also enhance your processes by accelerating their outcomes and also simplifying by how these processes are managed. So here, if you could see, you can see your entire flow from the start till the end in just a single in a single window, a single view. You do not have to go to multiple places to check, hey, my RPA process is there on Studio and Orchestrator. I need to visualize it from there, and then come to your agent builders to look at how your agents are working for the process, and then back to a human in the loop interaction such as Action Center to see what is going on there. You wouldn't have to go to each of these three systems here to see what is happening for one single process, but you will just get the complete visibility by modeling your BPM and orchestration in such a way where it is visible to you end to end. Next slide, please. So now, how does the agentic orchestration work across the end-to-end process life cycle? So what exactly happens in an agentic orchestration life cycle from model to optimize? So we first begin with modeling. So as you know, that before we could deploy anything, we first need to create it first. So in Studio Web, we use BPMN constructs with certain notations and certain modelings to just model your process as to how it is going to look like end to end. And once that has been modeled, we then implement it and deploy these agents. So you could either deploy the UI path or the third party agents within your flow, and again integrate your RPA automations as well as human in the loop tasks into just one single orchestration layer. And once that has been deployed correctly, we can then operate these processes with real-time visibility and control. You will see exactly how the flow has begun. You will see exactly where the flow has gone wrong in case it has not been able to finish. You will know exactly at which step it has gone wrong, because then it will show you, hey, at step 5 or step 6, whichever it is, it has gone wrong here. So it is very intuitive in nature, and you will know exactly where to go and look to solve the issues. And then once you have deployed your agents end to end, you would then need to monitor and optimize your flows, right? So then you could start monitoring your processes with your KPIs that you put in, or the business rules, or the heat maps that the organization is following. You can monitor it anyway based on those metrics that you have put. And in the end, to make sure your orchestration is always going in the right direction, it is always following all of the best practices of deployment, you will be optimizing your processes time to time to just uncover if there are any bottlenecks in your processes, or if in case there are additional opportunities as to how you can enhance your already existing orchestration. So you could do all of this from the optimization part. So from an end-to-end perspective, this is how an agentic orchestration workflow is run through. Next slide, please. So when you're implementing your agents, right, or modeling your agents, you would have certain business rules which you would like to implement and also integrate with your particular agents. So now when we are modeling our agentic orchestration flow on Studio or any BPMN tool, where you could use certain decision model notations like you could see in the picture above, and to add these business rules and also manage these decisions directly within the process. Say that you would have a human in the loop to approve certain decisions. That is, you could again integrate it in your agentic workflow as well, in the name of a decision model and notation, which is the construct within the BPMN. So once you have done that and then integrated that into your agentic workflow, you could easily do it from your orchestration flow itself, and you would not have to again navigate elsewhere to do so. And once you have given your business rules, you can also import, export, and also control your versions easily within the orchestrator as well. So you could just check if your external systems are working okay, and the ability to track and manage changes are also within the flow itself. So there is no you don't have to there is no an extra step for you to go and look at, where do I have to go and approve certain things, or where can I approve or disapprove my decisions or things like that. Everything will just be available to you in that one flow itself. Next slide, please. Yep. So now, after you have given your business rules and everything, we would now then orchestrate these agents, robots, as well as the human in the loop that is involved end to end. So you could seamlessly integrate your tasks. So, like as you can see in the picture that is there, we first begin. This is an invoice processing workflow, an agentic orchestration workflow rather, for invoice processing, where it would first start with the invoice to PO matching, which can be a normal RPA flow with a two-way matching process and things like that. And then it would move to the next steps, where you can also see there is an action center app task, which is your human in the loop. And moving forward, you will also see that your agents are also there to check certain steps in your particular flow. And now again, it is not necessary that you would use only your UiPath agents. We are also very open, and it is also very agent agnostic, product agnostic for the platform. So you could integrate your third-party agents, your RPA workflows, and API events too, along with these human-in-the-loop tasks to maximize your productivity for this particular use case. And it can be any use case based on how what you're trying to explore. It either even does not need to be this big or this small that is it shown here. If you're just getting started, you could have a very small flow to just get an idea of the how the entire platform works end to end. And while doing that, you will also be able to test and debug and validate to see if this is what if the result that you're getting is exactly what you have been trying to achieve when you started your VPMN modeling and agentic orchestration flow. Next slide, please. Now, when you're implementing your third-party agents, it again does not matter which exact vendor it is from. You will be able to connect, and also uh, your entire orchestration would be in sync based on doesn't matter which agent it is, which technology it is. You will be fully able to seamlessly integrate it. So when your agents are then your external agents are integrated into the Maestro workflow, which is the agentic orchestration workflow. So then it would come together. Your end-to-end process would come together in such a way that you will not see any breaks in the middle, right? So, for example, if you've modeled your entire Maestro flow and then you need a third party agent, say a co-pilot agent, you can then put your co-pilot agent and integrate it into your Maestro flow. And then with the correct configurations, you will be able to run your flow end to end directly from Maestro itself. So there will not be any disruptions to your flow per se too. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide, it mostly just illustrates how the deployment is from the UiPath agentic platform, showing how everything connects across the layers that are shown here. So now at the center, you have the UiPath Enterprise Automation Platform. And this is where, all the action happens, where you can build, you can customize, you can orchestrate, test, deploy, govern, all of it from a single platform. And above that, you could see the assistant of the UI layer, where we mostly integrate it with with UiPath Autopilot, or as well as other agentic assistants like SAP Copilot, depending on what the users are using. You will be able to integrate that too. And below, we support both vertical as well as vendor specific agents, and these are the out of box automations and integrations which are tailored for systems like SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, and also other industry specific platforms. So in a nutshell, what we're trying to highlight here is that as UiPath as a central unifying automation layer, it connects assistance, core systems, as well as specialized agents, which will allow you to operate your agentic automation at scale, and you will also be able to view everything at one place. You don't have to go and navigate to different systems. You will be able to scale it directly from just from one. It's a one-stop shop for you to scale it as well, and that is how you could end-to-end orchestrate your entire agentic workflow at a very at an enterprise level. Next slide, please. And here are some of the just best practices when you're publishing and deploying the agents. I will just give you a minute to go through all of these as well. And also I can just pick up a few to just explain what to expect when you're publishing and deploying your agents from a best perspective point of view. So for example, if your essential gate is that your context sources are connected, you need to check that at least one relevant knowledge base is grounded. So to do that, what you could do is you could go to your context grounding, and then in the sources, you will be able to check at least one relevant knowledge base is there and it's grounded. Because if it is not, your agent will not give you the best possible result that you are looking to, and then it could also create certain disruptions. So one of them, it is best to go and check if your context grounding is a relevant knowledge base and it's also been grounded properly. And then you could also, for example, if you want to check your prompts and examples are finalized, what you need to check is that the system or the user prompt includes the role constraints as well as 3 to 5 input mapped examples. Again, where to do this? You could go to your agent builder, and then under agent builder, there is the system and user prompt. And there you could go and check if this particular setting is enabled or based on what you want to do again. Lastly, I'll just pick one more, which is the if your evaluation sets have been created. So we at least with a certain number of curated test cases, you need to check if they're covering the real world usage as well. And for that, you could go to the agent builder and check the evaluation tab to ensure that your evaluation sets are created, and also if the performance of these evaluation sets have been validated too, because we need at least a good confidence score, and you would need to check that as well before deploying your agents to ensure it gives you the best possible results. So to do so, it is very important to follow these best practices as well. Okay, so that is all I had from my end. We will be answering the questions as well, but just before that, there is a quiz which we have prepared for you, a fun quiz. So if you could just, Yuva, if you could just share that. And the top two performers and the top two from the quiz would also be awarded a swag voucher. So please do join in, and we'll get started as soon as we have enough people.
Yeah, meanwhile, if you have any questions on the part what Shreya had covered, you can put them in Slido. So I'll screen share just for a while before I switch to Slido. Mahesh, can you drag the Slido part?
There aren't any questions on this Slido. A couple of questions on chat. I'm just answering to them.
Just a minute, let me share it. So if you haven't joined Slido yet, you can join through this code or by scanning the QR code. So I'll start the poll. Just a minute. Shrey, can you start it?
Just give me a sec. I have enough people join.
Okay, only this many people have joined so far.
Okay, we have about 8. 9. Okay, I think we'll just wait for another minute, and if people then we can get started.
Okay.
Yuva, I think we can start.
I think we have got certain. Do we get any question through the chat as well? Just looking at the chat.
Sorry,
Okay, I
what
think
did you
you
say?
have already answered certain
Yeah, I
questions.
have answered.
I was okay. Great. Yeah, can you start the poll?
It's started. If you can just click on next, right? It should start.
Okay, here is your first question. A trust layer in UiPath primarily ensure. Let's see. So everybody have selected auditability and responsible AI usage. That's right. Moving on to the next question. How can you model and build your agentic process? Okay. So it's using Studio Web and BPM conflicts and using Maestro as well. Let's see what's the answer.
The 50-50.
Using Studio Web and BPM conflicts. Yeah. I think the reason is, I mean, they will be thinking that Maestro can also be a platform where they can build end-to-end automation, right? But here we're talking more on the agentic front only like UiPath agent primarily.
Okay, so I think after 2 questions, we've got Shiv, Poojan, leading with Kavita second. So this is also the answer. The leaderboard is also based on how fast you choose the answer. So keep in mind of that as well.
Yeah. Fastest fingers first.
Yeah.
Have your next question. Is it not possible to include human in the loop functional agent work? Okay, it is not possible, right? Yeah. That's true. That's correct. We have Shipunjan Kumar leading. What role does automation process? It connects robots, agents, and people, managing the full life cycle of complex enterprise processes. And we
That's
have
the right
certain folks
answer.
answering it as it performs manual tasks alongside AI agents, which requires human intervention in most scenarios. So yes, the second one is the correct answer. We have still but Agent Builder is a LLM agnostic tool. Okay, most people have chosen true as the correct answer. Yeah. So which of the following is not a governance capability in automation ops? Let's see who answered it correct. So we have a couple of folks answering it as automatic code generation and some people controlling network access. So let's see the right answer. So it's automatic code generation because it doesn't have that capability yet. We don't have anything which will auto-generate your code, and that's the correct answer. And network access can be controlled, as I mentioned. So we have access restrictions, which are possible through automation ops. Moving on to the next question. How can end-to-end agentic orchestration be achieved? Okay, so through Maestro, which is the correct answer. Because through Agent Builder, we only create an agent, which will be a part of the entire flow, which will be directed to do only a particular or certain task. Now, the second one is the correct answer. We have Shivakunjan Kumar leading the leaderboard still. Have question 8. What is the primary purpose of UiPath automation ops in agentic automation? Okay. So it's all the work to provide centralized governance for automation environments, yes. To enable policy enforcement, yes. And we have compliance and security as well for your AI agents. So it's all the work. So which layer in UiPath ensures responsible AI usage and compliance for agentic automation? Of course, it's AI trust layer. And you have your final question. How can governance policies be deployed in UiPath automation ops? At tenant level, user level, or group level? All of the options, which is correct. So let's see the leaderboard. Who had, yeah, it's Shivpanjan Kumar, who had answered all the questions correct. And less time.
Shiv Pujan and
So,
Manjunath, if you could please just drop your emails in the chat box. We will reach out to you with the gift vouchers as well. And congrats.
yeah. Congrats, folks. Is it only top 2 or top 3?
It's top 2.
Okay, great. And so let's see the can you stop the poll? We'll go through the audience have.
Are there any additional questions? I think there aren't any on the Slido.
Oh, I don't see any questions in Slido.
Yeah, just a couple of ones which are there on the chat. I think have been answered. Is there any other questions from anyone else? Okay. In not, then I think we are good to close. Yuva?
Yeah, I think we are good to close. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. This recording will be available in case you want to refer to this in the future. And if you have any questions, I mean, you can always reach out to us through LinkedIn or through community, through Rohit, anybody, and we will be happy to help.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. Thanks for joining the
Thank you,
session
everyone.
today. Yeah.